This show is produced by the Harwood Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris, and we love making this show available to you free of charge. If you'd like to help us keep it that way, make a contribution to our Karma Jar or become a show sponsor. To learn more, visit our website. Today I'm making a great no-bake cookie. I'm first starting with a traditional bourbon ball, and then I'm going to vary it for you and make it into an amaretto ball. These cookies are great to make with your kids, and they're delicious for the holidays. Now, since these cookies are no-bake, we're going to be using some ingredients that we normally don't use in the cookies that I make. Usually in cookies you have things like flour and sugar and butter to kind of create the volume. Well, we're not going to be using that. For the part of the bulk of our cookie, we're going to be using these Nilla vanilla wafers. And basically what these are is just like a vanilla biscuit type cookie. And we're going to take and we're going to crush some of those up. Now, if you want to crush them up in your food processor, you can absolutely do that. But here's another easy way to do it, especially if you're going to be making these cookies with kids, is just to get a big zip bag and put some of the wafer cookies in there and seal it up, but leave a little bit of an opening at one end because we want the air to get forced out. And then I'm just going to use my rolling pin and I'm going to crush these cookies, and I want them to be really, really fine. So I may bash it a little bit with the rolling pin and then actually roll it, and you'll see you get some pretty good crumbs. Now you can see how much this condenses down. Do make sure that you've got most of the big pieces crushed. Get a medium-sized bowl and measure out 1 cup of the cookie crumbs. Then I'm going to add a cup of powdered sugar. I'm just going to scoop it into my measuring cup. I'm not going to bother sifting it or anything like that. I do want to level it off and place that in the bowl with my cookie crumbs. Now we need some chopped pecans, and when I'm making a cookie like this, you want the pieces to be very, very fine. And again, you could use a food processor if you'd like, but I find one of these little chopping things works out pretty nicely. So I just put some of the pecans in the bottom of the dish, put the chopper on top, and then just with my hand, press it up and down. This is a great way to have kids help you with chopping nuts because they're not using knives and, potentially cutting themselves. But you can see just how fine I want these pecans. And I'm going to measure out 1 cup of them. And I'll put that in the bowl with my cookie crumbs and my powdered sugar. Now with my spatula, I'm just going to toss these ingredients together. I want to make sure that they get really well mixed up because we're not using a mixer or anything like that. You want to make sure that each little cookie has a bit of the sugar, the nuts, and the cookie crumbs. Then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Now I'm using a dark cocoa powder, a Dutch processed cocoa powder, but you could also use a Hershey's cocoa powder. That would work fine. I'm going to toss that in. And sometimes with cocoa there can be little lumps, and you want to try to press those out with your spatula the best you can. I'm going to measure in 1/4 cup of bourbon and 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup. And this is what's going to kind of bind everything together. And now we mix this together really well. When you're doing a no-bake cookie, the mixing part is super important. We don't want to see any dry ingredients. So just keep working this, and once it looks like this, it's time to shape them into our little balls. Now to shape our little balls, I'm using my smallest cookie scoop, but you could use a teaspoon if you'd like. And I'm going to really pack that in, place it in my hand, and then I'm going to roll it into a nice little ball. And then I have a dish of some more powdered sugar, and I'm just going to roll that in there until it's nicely covered. And then I have a tray, or you can use a baking sheet that I've put a piece of parchment on, and I'm just going to set it right on there. And then go back and do it again. Now with this batch and that size cookie scoop, I got about 2.5 dozen of these little cookies, and they come together really quickly. So I do want to show you a great variation on these. My husband loves Amaretto, so what I'm going to do is take basically the same recipe, so a cup of cookie crumbs, a cup of powdered sugar, but instead of the pecans, I'm going to use sliced almonds. But I do still want to chop them up really finely. And I'll add a cup of them. 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup, and then 1/4 cup of Amaretto, which is an almond liqueur. Then mix that together. Now I'm going to shape these and roll them in powdered sugar just like I did the bourbon balls, but I'm going to put them on the same tray and they're going to look very similar to the bourbon balls. So I'm just going to take a straw and lay that right on my tray, and then I'll place the Amaretto balls on the other side of the straw. That way I can tell the difference. And then I'm going to put these in the refrigerator for about an hour to set up. Now once they're set, you're going to want to store them, and they stay stored in the refrigerator, but you need to keep them in a covered tin or some kind of lidded container to keep them staying fresh. But when you are ready to serve them or give them as a gift, what I do is I get some of these little candy cups, and I get 2 colors because the bourbon balls and the Amaretto balls look so similar. I want people to know that they are indeed different. So what I'm going to do today is for the bourbon balls, I have these great little gold candy cups, and then for the Amaretto balls I have these great little red foil candy cups. So I can have them sitting on my tray like this, and my guests will know that, oh, the gold ones are one flavor and the red ones are another flavor. Now these are a great make-ahead cookie as well. The flavors really mellow the longer they hang out in the refrigerator. So many times I make these at least 2 weeks before Christmas, and that way they're nice and fresh, they have great flavor, they're in the refrigerator. So if I need to pull a few out to put in a cookie box that I'm making as a gift or to serve with a cup of tea to a friend, they're ready to go and they taste fantastic. Now, if you'd like to get the recipe for these bourbon and Amaretto balls, just go to our website and visit the cookie jar show notes, and I'll have the recipes there for you. And as always, if you have any questions, please send me an email. I'll see you next time.